Majora's Mask has more philosophical themes than any other story format media I've ever come across. Most people walk away feeling that the game is particularly meaningful, but the themes of the game are never explicitly discussed in philosophical terms, so I thought I would make a short video explaining my thoughts on this masterpiece. Let's begin with the notion of determinism. The central mechanic of Majora's Mask is a repeating cycle of 3 days. Unless the player interferes with events, every event occurs in a predictable pattern. Now, determinism, expressed simply, is the conviction that events could not have been otherwise, that they play out according to a necessary lawfulness. Of course, we normally experience the necessary chain of world events linearly, but the only way to represent in a work of art the notion that the world works according to a necessary lawfulness is to represent a repetition of events, as Majora's Mask does. I also think it's worth mentioning that entering the clock tower, where the inner workings of the clockwork can actually be observed, takes Link outside of the deterministic time loop. I find this interesting because deterministic laws are thoughts imposed on sense perceptions, meaning consciousness of deterministic laws as such is an observation of thinking itself, which is also not part of the time-space manifold. The second, more epistemological notion I want to bring up is the duality of essence and appearance. By appearance, I simply mean the immediate sensory object in consciousness. By essence, I mean the object or thing in itself that is concealed by the sensory appearance in consciousness. It is the task of epistemology to close the gap between appearance and essence, to uncover the concealed truth. This theme plays out in two ways in Majora's Mask. First, the whole game is about masks, and masks are quite literally appearances that conceal the real object standing behind them. You can see then that defeating Majora's Mask, the antagonist of the game, is like overcoming the limits of knowledge, whereby appearance gives way to essence, to knowledge. The second way the appearance-essence duality plays out is the implication that the whole story is a dream, that is, an appearance that has been completely divorced from any objective essence, similar to the mask of Majora. However, while a mask is an appearance that conceals a true object, a dream is an appearance that has been borrowed from previous perceptual experience and subjectively reformed according to a new concept. The opening scene is Link nodding off and then falling into a dark hole and seeing dreamy images borrowed from past experience. So too, when he arrives in Termina, the characters appear as exact replicas of those that appear in Ocarina of Time, the predecessor to Majora's Mask, but they have different personalities. Their essence is different, but their appearance is the same. And then of course at the end of the game, Link is where he started, as if awoken from a dream. On the tree log is a sketch of Link, Skull Kid, and the Giants, a representation, notably, of the events that occurred during gameplay. The final theme I want to touch on is that of incarnation and death, the embodiment and disembodiment of consciousness. Incarnation is closely linked to the appearance-essence duality because it is the act of consciousness taking on a sense-perceptible appearance, that is, a body. Link incarnates into the bodies of the dead, but also he finishes the worldly tasks of these dead, allowing their consciousness to heal and overcome their attachment to the world. But it's not just these specific dead that are coming to terms with death. The set of Majora's Mask is a falling moon. This represents self-consciousness of one's own temporal finitude. Coming to terms with the impermanence of the body is consciousness releasing its hold on the body and worldly concerns, a sort of pre-death unincarnation. As has been widely recognized, the 5 regions represent 5 stages of grief, culminating in acceptance of the impermanence of both one's own and others' material existence. In this final region, Icona Valley, Link learns to disassociate himself from his own body by playing the Elegy of Emptiness. Majora's Mask is not the only story-based media that represents philosophical notions, but it brings them together and shows them as a system of philosophy. It is as if the game is saying that incarnated consciousness necessarily encounters a world of appearances, and that these appearances are governed by necessary laws. By coming to peace with the temporal finitude of the body, the illusions and binding necessity of the world dissolves. A new day dawns in freedom.